Greetings folks, welcome back to Bob of All Trades. In this video I will be reviewing the MSI GE66 Raider. This has the RTX 3070, pretty powerful laptop. Now this was sent to me as a review unit only from ZTech PC, this will go back. They also sent me the GE66 Stealth, which I already reviewed. So ZTech PC, I appreciate that. They are allowing me to review some of the new stuff, which is nice. With that out of the way, I just want to be upfront straight away. ZTech PC typically does thermal paste upgrades and those types of applications to not void the warranty. Most of the gameplay you're going to see here, however, is on stock thermal paste, and then I'm also going to feature results with Phobya nanogrease, which is their typical non-conductive paste of choice. So I think you're really going to enjoy this. I've got a whole bunch of stuff to talk about, some things in the middle. We'll wrap it up at the end. This is my review of the GE66 Raider.
This GE66 has the 300Hz Full HD display at 98% standard RGB, 76% Adobe RGB at 300 nits. Inside is the 10th generation 8-core i7, a 125-watt RTX 3070, 32 GB of 3200 MHz memory and dual channel, 1 TB of storage with an empty M.2 and Wi-Fi 6. I explained how to access some of these parts for upgrades in a separate video, linked in the description below and at the end of this review. The 99.9 watt-hour battery in hybrid mode at 50% brightness and keyboard lighting disabled would idle for about 8 hours, basic use for about 5 to 6 hours, and edit for about 2 hours. Just slightly less than the GE66 Stealth with the same specs. Switching to dedicated GPU mode, switchable in the software, is ideal for gaming. Battery life expectations here are cut in half, but this mode is meant for fun time. Like the GE66 Stealth, the GE66 Raider 2 has a MUX Switch. Within the software, you can toggle MS Hybrid mode for maximum battery life and utilize switchable graphics, or dedicated GPU mode for improved gaming performance. I run the latter for all benchmarks and gameplay. Link in the description and at the end of the video for why your next laptop should have a MUX Switch. Benchmarks for this GE66 were solid as benchmarks typically are. Cinebench scores high for a 10th generation 8-core i7 thanks to the higher power limits of this chassis. Firestrike and TimeSpy may allow the 125-watt 3070 to dynamically boost to 130 watts in rare situations like benchmarks. Regardless, these numbers should put this GPU slightly ahead of a laptop RTX 2080 at 200 watts. But those are scenarios designed to take advantage of the hardware in ways that typically won't reflect reality. Gaming is a different story and has been fun to monitor. There was CPU bottlenecking during some of these game sessions, revealed by the fact that the RTX 3070 is not fully saturated. Ideally, near or at 100% utilization of the GPU ensures the GPU is maximized. Dynamic boost of this 3070 to 130 watts is rare due to the power required from the CPU to push this tier of graphics card. Still, frame rate performance in general is higher than just about any laptop I have tested for its size. But we're at a point where there's a clear performance bottleneck. Unfortunately, CPU core performance has not kept up with GPU performance. This is why you'll see some manufacturers use higher resolution displays to mitigate the wasted GPU performance. Now, all of the gameplay shown was with stock thermal paste, max fan speed, and extreme performance profile to ensure maximum CPU performance unless otherwise noted. It's not all doom and thermal gloom. Here's what Phobya nanogrease Extreme looks like even after a 2-hour game session. We got a reliable 10 degrees Celsius drop on the CPU. This is an option through ZTech PC at the buyer's expense. Let their techs do the job so you don't compromise your warranty.
Okay, I started a new YouTube channel called Tested. At this point, it's about 1 week old, and what I do on this channel is I break down individual games on a per laptop basis and talk about where the bottlenecking is and what kind of performance expectations you can have, again, on a per game basis. Each one of these videos is 3 minutes long or less, and I have 6 of them on the brand new channel already just for this laptop alone. If you like how I conduct my reviews and how I explain what's really going on with a device during gameplay, you are actually going to like Tested probably more so than Bob of All Trades. With that out of the way, let's proceed with the laptop life stuff on this Raider.
Moving on to laptop life things, the GE66 weighs 5.2 pounds and under 1 inch thin at its thickest point. It has an aluminum lid and deck with a plastic bezel and bottom panel. And now it feels stout in hand and it doesn't rattle or clunk when carried. The hinge is dialed in for one-hand opening. Unlike the GE66 Stealth, the trackpad is small and not as tight or refined. The keyboard is the same, however, and the keystrokes are short, and the layout was something I had trouble with early on, but I'm nearly 6 weeks in with the GS66 and GE66. I know I'm getting used to this when I'm making mistakes on my daily driver, the Aero 15. Port selection on the GE66, on the left side we have a lock, USB 3, USB-C, and the combo mic and headphone port. On the right we have 2 USB 3 ports and a full-size Ultra High-Speed 2 SD card reader, fully seated. The rear we have a mini display port, USB-C that'll do DisplayPort, the LAN, HDMI, and the rectangular power port, power supplied by this 230 watt brick. No Thunderbolt 3 on this GE66 Raider, unlike the GS66 Stealth I recently reviewed. I do respect the difference in looks, trackpad, and ports between the Raider and Stealth. Perhaps one is ultimately catering to a different individual's needs. I suspect some will comment wishing this Raider had a Thunderbolt 3 port, however. Different strokes for different folks. The RGB elements of this Raider are pretty nice. We have the same per-key RGB that carries over from the GS66 Stealth. But in addition to that, the light bar in front of the chassis is pretty awesome, and there's 35 zones just here alone to customize. It's bright and fun to look at. It was to my surprise when the Raider had a 1080p webcam instead of the Stealth's 720p offering. Let's compare the two.
Alright, the GE66 Raider has a 1080p webcam. It looks pretty good. The microphone's pretty nice too, as it's quite loud, relatively clear, but there is a slight squealing sound. It's coming from the fans. And the GS66 Stealth was far worse, but I think that might have been fixed. Let's have a look and listen. So when we move over to the Stealth, obviously 720p, microphone quality is not nearly as good either. I have no voice cancellation features toggled on, yet my voice tends to cut out. Whatever firmware update I recently applied perhaps addressed the squealing microphone on this particular model. But regardless, there's still some voice cutting out here and there. Not a fan of that. Quality of the Raider, obviously much better. I think with another update, we could get this one dialed in. I like where it's at. Now, maximum fans. You can hear this, and then it'll isolate it to around maybe 15 or 20%. So that noise is still in the background. Ultimately, just don't max out your fans in a Zoom meeting. Perhaps one more update to this device, and it should be excellent.
Dana Audio speaker audio comes from the sides, rather than the top like the GS66 or the bottom like most gaming laptops. LatencyMon real-time audio test for music creators passed at the 5-minute mark, but failed 1 minute later. This occurred when the NVIDIA GPU kicked in while using the MS hybrid mode. Further testing using the dedicated graphics mode yields instant LatencyMon failure. The culprit seems to be the NVIDIA GPU interfering with this test, just a heads up. Now here's what the speaker audio sounds like compared to the Stealth. Lastly, fan acoustics and fan idle behavior. Max fan speed is ideal for maximum performance, and it comes in around 55 decibels. Auto fan will scale to the load applied. This will depend on the software, ambient temps, and the thermal paste. It can be as low as 42 decibels or at near maximum. Idle fan behavior has been much more reliable over the GS66 Stealth, and I noticed this right away. This Raider is mostly silent, and when its fans do turn on, they're not obnoxiously fluctuating. Of course, you can tune this within the software, but the out-of-the-box experience here was far superior than the GS66 Stealth I recently reviewed, since this Raider needed no tweaking for me personally.
Alright, let's wrap this up. Two things. If I had to choose between the Stealth or the Raider, I would go with the Raider. I'm not recommending you to go with the Raider. I've reviewed both. You can see which one you like the best and go from there. I like the Raider because it has a card reader, full size, and it's an ultra high speed too, which means it's going to be as fast as my Aero 15. I am going to miss Thunderbolt though, as I have an external NVMe enclosure. When I have 60 or 100 gigabytes worth of gaming files that I want to pull off of my reviewed machine onto my editing machine, USB-C is not nearly as fast, and that's just a process that slows down my workflow, and that's something I'm ultimately trying to avoid. Both of these have MUX switches, both of them are great gaming devices, but this one does a better job. And when it comes to that laptop life, usability, and idle fan acoustics, again, this one wins. Much better webcam, much better microphone. I have to give the edge to the Raider right now, but when it comes to that nice subtle aesthetic and clean look, the Stealth is going to be hard to beat. The Stealth is going to be hard to beat in that regard across most manufacturers, with the exception of a handful of laptops that are packing a punch like this does. So each one has their place. But I do want to wrap this up with one final thing. When it comes to price to value, once you start to get up to that $1,800 US price range and beyond, things can get a little sketchy, right? I mean, we're looking at probably maybe $2,200 and $2,400, give or take. I mean, the price could change the moment I post this review. It can change 6 months down the road. That is just how that goes. Nonetheless, these are very expensive devices, and for what you may perceive you're getting or what you need, this may not be something that you're going to be too terribly interested in. But when you get into devices that are this expensive, all of their features combined may be justifiable for you to pull the trigger. But for many others out there, there's just no way. Alright folks, that's going to do it. Hopefully you enjoyed my review. GE Raider, GS Stealth, nice devices. Check out my new channel called Tested. I'm Bob Voltrades, and I'll see you soon.